Rudy Gobert was the first NBA player to test positive with COVID-19, but not a lot of people pitied him, specifically because of this infamous clip of him touching reporters' microphones, basically making light of the entire situation prior to it being confirmed that he had the virus. After Gobert tested positive, all of the Utah Jazz players and staff were subsequently tested, and it just so happened that the only other person who tested positive was Donovan Mitchell. Of course, it's not clear whether Gobert was actually the one who transmitted the virus to his fellow All-Star, but that still hasn't kept their relationship from remaining toxic, despite the fact that they were both cleared of the virus last March 27. The Athletic recently released a long piece wherein they quoted a source stating that he believes the relationship between the two Jazz All-Stars doesn't appear salvageable. However, on April 13, Rudy Gobert downplayed the news on IG Live with Taylor Rooks, saying the two are focused on winning championships despite their relationship being far from perfect. Whatever the case may be, if their relationship does turn sour, the Jazz may have to make a decision to trade one of the two stars, and I believe that should be Rudy Gobert. What's up guys, my name is Colin, and for today's video, I'm going to lean into the media's narrative and talk about 3 reasonable Rudy Gobert trades the Utah Jazz can make. The first question is, why Rudy Gobert over Donovan Mitchell? Gobert is the more established player, a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a 2-time All-NBA selection, and the Stifle Tower is the reason the Jazz have an identity as a defensive juggernaut. But what makes Gobert the better trade option here doesn't necessarily discount the accomplishments he's made in the past. The fact of the matter is, elite bigs are becoming less and less important for playoff teams. The last few champions had serviceable, but not necessarily elite big men, or they had wings who could service as agile bigs. Gobert is actually the perfect example of someone whose role diminishes in the playoffs. Last season, when the Jazz were ousted in 5 games by the Rockets, Gobert was picked apart in the perimeter by the Rockets, and not only that, the one win of the Jazz was when Gobert was limited to 23 minutes. Gobert is also a free agent in 2021, which means the Jazz should look to get some value for him if they believe he might bolt in free agency. But before we get to the actual trades, I thought, what will the Jazz want as a return for Rudy Gobert? And I thought of 2 things. The first is a competent replacement big. I know I just mentioned that bigs are a lot less valuable nowadays, but that doesn't mean the Jazz can survive with a big man rotation of Ed Davis and Tony Bradley. They're going to definitely need a starter-level big man in order to give him the option of playing more traditionally. The second is a spot-up shooter. The Jazz actually finished number 1 in the league in 3-point percentage when the season ended, but you can never have enough shooting, especially because the Jazz already have so many ball handlers. Too many ball handlers was actually their biggest issue as a team last season, and an additional pure spot-up shooter to group with Bojan Bogdanovic should help solve those problems. Now that we know what the Jazz are looking for, let's get to the actual trades. The Utah Jazz trade Rudy Gobert to the Sacramento Kings for Buddy Hield and Richaun Holmes. The Jazz get 2 good players for the price of a great one. Buddy Hield is the best spot-up shooter the Jazz can get in the market. The 2023 point champion averaged 19.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 3.1 assists last season, and was second in the league in 3-pointers made, nailing 244 threes at 3.8 per game with a 39.5% 3-point shooting clip. At 27 years old, Hield is in the prime of his career, and he's perfect for a Jazz team looking to compete right now. He does have a sizable contract set to kick in next season, but the number does decrease over time, and it should be tradable if the experiment fails. On the other hand, Richaun Holmes is exactly what I envision as a competent big man replacement for the Jazz. For those who may not know, Holmes was in the midst of a breakout season for the Kings right before a shoulder injury limited him to just 39 games. He averaged 12.8 points, 8.3 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1.4 blocks per game last season, and he had a PER of 20.5, which is just 1.2 less than that of Rudy Gobert. Holmes can also replace Gobert in pick and roll action for the Jazz. In fact, Holmes was third in the league in points per possession as the roll man for those with at least 3 possessions per game. Defensively, it will obviously be tough to replace Gobert, but Holmes at least has the agility and shot blocking ability to offer a poor man's replacement. As for the Kings, this trade makes sense for them as a team that's desperately looking to make the playoffs for the first time in what will now be a league-leading 14 years. Healed Gone will also give them more incentive to keep Bogdanovic, and a core of him plus De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, and now Rudy Gobert gives the Kings a great chance to end that playoff drought. Gobert is a risky rental for the Kings, but this is the type of move that makes sense for both teams involved. The Utah Jazz trade Rudy Gobert to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Wayne Ellington, and a 2021 unprotected first-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks. Speaking of teams desperate to make the playoffs, we move to the New York Knicks. Like I mentioned earlier, Rudy Gobert is a free agent in 2021, so the Knicks may as well go for him now since he's probably already on their radar. And this might be a really funny situation for Gobert, considering he'll be going to the league's biggest market with its loudest critics right after his recent fiasco. But reviving the Knicks in any sort of way might also give him the positive buzz he'll need to let the fans cut him some slack. For the Jazz, their haul here once again fits the competent big man plus spot-up shooter bill. Julius Randle is the best player the Jazz will get in this deal, and on paper, he played very well last season with stats of 19.5 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. But acquiring him does force the Jazz to shift their style. His skills are extremely different from Gobert's, as Randle is a poor rim protector. He can, however, operate from the high post and is a willing distributor. Considering the fact that they have several wings who can rotate off the ball, I think this would be an additional wrinkle that Quinn Snyder can definitely work well with. The downside to Randle is that he will also be a free agent in 2021, but that's why it's important that the Jazz can also get Mitchell Robinson in this deal. Robinson is the wild card of this deal. The Knicks should probably value 22-year-olds averaging 2.2 blocks per game and leading the league in field goal percentage, but the Knicks don't like nice stuff. And he only started 7 of 61 games he played in all of last season. It didn't do Robinson any favors that the Knicks signed 5,000 power forwards in the offseason to steal his minutes. But to be fair to the Knicks, sometimes it is Robinson's fault why he can't see minutes on the court. He's a foul machine and is 4th in the league in fouls per 48 minutes. At this point in his career, Robinson is a bona fide rim-running big and is limited to dunks and putbacks on the offensive side. But for the Jazz, adding a rim-running big for limited minutes with a lot of upside should do good as a potential long-term replacement for Rudy Gobert. Lastly, Wayne Ellington is the least sexy of the players that the Jazz will acquire, but he is quite essential in this deal. The 32-year-old journeyman does one thing exceptionally well, and that's shoot the basketball. He found himself buried behind the Knicks' younger wings last season, but his recent track record should speak for itself as he's averaged at least 2.4 threes per game in each of the prior 3 seasons. He will be an absolute steal for the Jazz. The Utah Jazz trade Rudy Gobert to the Los Angeles Clippers for Montrezl Harrell, Landry Shamet, and Ivica Zubac. In my last video, I talked about how the Clippers are a big loser of this potential NBA season cancellation simply because they may be left with just one shot to win a title because both Kawhi and Paul George can become free agents in 2021. If the Clippers want to go 100% all in next season, this might be the trade for them to make. With Gobert, Kawhi, George, Lou Will, and Pat Bev, the Clippers should go into next season as title favorites. This trade also ensures them that they will have a return for Montrezl Harrell, who is an unrestricted free agent this year. For the Jazz, this could just be the best haul for them. In the 2019-2020 season, Harrell averaged 18.6 points and 7.1 rebounds on 58% from the field, and he had a PER of 23. He is a pick-and-roll machine, averaging 1.31 points per possession, higher than that of both Gobert and Holmes at just a little less possessions per game. Like Randall, he's more of an undersized big that does not offer a lot of rim protection, but I think his offensive versatility and athleticism should make up for that loss. Plus, if the Jazz want to use a traditional big, Ivica Zubac is part of this deal. Zubac was the Clippers' starting center for 62 of 64 games last season. He averaged 8 points and 7.2 rebounds in just 18 minutes per game for the Clippers. That will likely be the same role he'll play for the Jazz, much like the rest of the Clippers in this deal. Zubac's value will be his rim protection, as the Clippers had a defensive rating of 105.8 when he was on the court last season, which is good for 4th best in the league. And at 23 years old, the Jazz should be extremely happy with Zubac taking on part of the load Gobert will leave. Landry Shamet is the final piece in this deal, but by no means is he a slouch. He is a silky smooth shooter with a career 41% three-point shooting clip entering just his 3rd NBA season. A member of the 2018 All-Rookie second team, Shamet is just 23 years old and has enough potential to be a starter caliber player in the league in the future. He's already established himself as a proven bench scorer, which should make him the perfect fit alongside Jordan Clarkson and either Ingles or Conley on the Jazz bench. Those are the 3 reasonable Rudy Gobert trades that I think the Utah Jazz can make as early as this offseason. Again, Gobert may just be a rental, but he could be worth the risk for desperate teams in need like the Sacramento Kings and New York Knicks, or the missing piece for a contender like the LA Clippers. Let me know what you all think about these trades in the comment section below. Leave a comment on another potential Gobert trade you think might happen, and I'll catch you all in the next video.